In the rich part of Lagos, a young woman named Amara Bello lived a life that seemed perfect. Her father, Chief Femi Bello, was powerful and wealthy, and Amara was set to marry into another important family. Everyone thought she had it all. But Amara had a big secret. She was in love with someone her parents would never approve of. This secret love was like a quiet fight against the fancy life her family had planned for her. Could she really follow her heart, even if it meant risking everything her family stood for? Want to find out who Amara's secret love is and if she chooses him over her family's wishes? Kindly support me by liking this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. I love you. The morning sun in Lagos always brought with it a symphony of sounds. The distant hum of traffic, the cheerful calls of street vendors, and the soft rustle of palm trees in the gentle breeze. But inside the Grand Bello estate, high walls and manicured gardens kept the city's vibrant chaos at bay. Here, life moved to a different rhythm, one dictated by tradition, wealth, and the unyielding expectations of Chief Femi Bello. His daughter, Amara, lived at the very heart of this carefully constructed world. Her bedroom, larger than most people's entire homes, overlooked a sparkling swimming pool and a sprawling lawn that seemed to stretch endlessly. Every morning, a maid laid out her clothes, chosen from a wardrobe filled with designer labels. Breakfast was served on fine china, and her days were a blur of private tutors, charity events, and polite social gatherings. Amara had everything money could buy, yet she often felt like a rare bird in a gilded cage, beautiful but unable to fly. Chief Bello was a man carved from ambition and success. His empire, built on shipping and real estate, stretched across West Africa. He was respected, feared, and utterly devoted to his family's legacy. For him, Amara's future was not just about her happiness, but about strengthening the Bello name. And so, the grandest alliance of all had been arranged. Amara was to marry David Davies, the eldest son of the powerful Davies family, whose influence rivaled the Bellos. The wedding was just 3 months away. Invitations, embossed with gold, were already being prepared. The city buzzed with anticipation, discussing the union of two dynasties. Everyone spoke of it as a dream come true for Amara. Everyone, that is, except Amara herself. She would smile, politely accept congratulations, and nod at the discussions of wedding plans. Inside, however, a storm raged. David was kind, intelligent, and came from an impeccable background. He was everything her parents wanted for her. But he wasn't the one her heart yearned for. Her true love was a secret, a whisper in the quiet corners of her soul. His name was Tunde Adebayo. He was an artist, a painter whose studio was tucked away in a vibrant, bustling part of Lagos, far from the polished marble and hushed corridors of the Bello estate. Tunde had no family name that opened doors, no vast fortune, no political connections. He had only his art, his passion, and a spirit that saw beyond the surface. Amara had met Tunde by chance during a rare moment of rebellion. She had slipped away from a dull charity luncheon, driven by a sudden urge to explore the city's hidden gems. She found herself in a small, lively art gallery, a place her parents would have deemed unrefined. There, amidst canvases bursting with color and life, she saw Tunde. He was explaining his work to a small group, his eyes alight with a fire she rarely saw in her own world. He spoke of beauty in the everyday, of capturing the soul of Lagos in brushstrokes, not bank accounts. Their connection was immediate, undeniable. They started meeting in secret. Stolen moments in quiet cafes, hurried conversations in hidden gardens, and long, hushed phone calls late at night. Tund showed her a Lagos she had never known, not the one of exclusive clubs and guarded estates, but the real city, alive with stories, laughter, and struggle. He saw her, not just the chief's daughter, but Amara, with her dreams and her fears. He made her feel truly free, even if only for a few precious hours. "Are you sure about this, Amara?" Tund's voice was a low murmur, barely audible over the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. They were at a secluded beach just outside Badagry, a place so far removed from her family's world it felt like another planet. The moon cast a silver path across the water, and the only witnesses were the ancient trees lining the sand. Amara shivered, not from the cool night air, but from the weight of her decision. "I can't marry David, Tund. I just can't." Her voice was a fragile whisper, barely her own. "My parents, they don't understand. They think this is what's best." Tund took her hand, his fingers warm and reassuring. "I know it's hard, but your happiness matters more than their plans, doesn't it?" She looked at him, at the strong lines of his face, the kindness in his eyes. With him, she felt a sense of belonging she had never experienced in her luxurious home. He was her anchor, her escape, but the thought of defying her parents, of shattering their carefully constructed world, sent a fresh wave of fear through her. The scandal would be immense. The Bello name would be dragged through the mud. Alliances would crumble. Her father's fury would be a force of nature. "They'll be furious," she confessed, her voice trembling. "They'll disown me. They'll ruin you, Tund." He squeezed her hand. "Let them try. We'll face it together. We'll build our own life, Amara. One where you're not trapped. One where you can truly breathe." His words were a balm but also a challenge. Could she truly walk away from everything she had ever known? From the comfort, the security, the very identity that came with being a Bello? The thought was terrifying, yet the idea of a life without Tund, a life as David Davies' wife, was even more so. Back at the estate, the next morning, the wedding planner presented new fabric swatches for the reception hall. Her mother, Mrs. Bello, beamed, discussing the guest list. "The president's family will be there, darling, and the governor of Ogun State. This will be the event of the decade." Amara forced a smile, her mind miles away, replaying Tund's words under the moonlight. The golden cage felt tighter than ever. The whispers of forbidden love grew louder, urging her towards a path that promised freedom, but also unimaginable consequences. The clock was ticking. Soon, she would have to choose between duty and desire, between a life of luxury and a love that promised a future, however uncertain, of her own making. The stage was set for a scandal that would shake the very foundations of the Bello family. The days leading up to Amara's wedding to David Davies became a suffocating blur of preparations. Every morning, the Grand Bello estate buzzed with activity. Seamstresses arrived with swatches of the finest lace and silk, their tape measures gliding over Amara's waist. Caterers presented menus filled with exotic delicacies, and florists debated the precise shade of orchids that would adorn the grand ballroom. Amara's mother, Mrs. Bello, seemed to float through it all on a cloud of delighted satisfaction, her face radiant with the pride of a mother securing her daughter's magnificent future. "Imagine, Amara. The entire Lagos elite will be there," Mrs. Bello would exclaim, holding up a shimmering veil. "Even guests flying in from London and New York just for our wedding. It will be a legacy, darling. A true legacy." Amara would force a smile, her heart feeling like a knot tied tighter with each passing hour. She would nod, agree, and offer polite suggestions, all while a desperate countdown echoed in her mind. 1 week, 2 weeks. Soon there would be no more time. Her only solace, her only breath of fresh air, came from the secret messages she exchanged with Tund. Small, discreet texts quickly deleted. A hushed phone call late at night, spoken in whispers when everyone else in the house was asleep. These fragments of connection were her lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of despair. One humid afternoon, just a week before the traditional engagement ceremony, Amara found an excuse to slip away. She claimed a sudden headache, needing fresh air. Her driver, a loyal family employee named Mr. Cotonou, was instructed to take her to a quiet park in Ikoyi, a place known for its sprawling trees and secluded benches. But Amara had other plans. "Mr. Cotonou," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, "could you drop me off a few blocks away from the park? I want to walk the rest of the way. I need to clear my head." Mr. Cotonou, a kind man who had known Amara since she was a little girl, hesitated. "Are you sure, Miss Amara? It's quite a walk in this heat." "Please, Mr. Cotonou, I really need the solitude," she insisted, giving him her most convincing smile. He eventually agreed, pulling over near a quiet residential street, far from the prying eyes of her family's security. As soon as his car was out of sight, Amara hailed a shared taxi, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. "To Yaba Market," she told the driver, naming a place her parents would consider completely off-limits for her. From there, she knew a network of narrow streets and bustling walkways that would lead her to Tund's studio. The journey was a stark contrast to her usual opulent rides. The taxi was old, the seats worn, and the air filled with the smells of exhaust and street food. But for Amara it was thrilling. Every jolt, every honk, every shout from a vendor felt like a step towards freedom. Tund's studio was on the upper floor of an old, unassuming building, tucked away behind a bustling fabric shop. She climbed the creaking wooden stairs, her silk dress feeling out of place in the dusty, vibrant stairwell. But the moment she pushed open the door, she stepped into another world. The studio was a riot of color and creativity. Canvases leaned against walls, some finished, others just beginning. The air smelled of turpentine and fresh paint. Sunlight streamed through a large window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. And there, amidst it all, was Tund, his brow furrowed in concentration as he worked on a new piece. He looked up as she entered, and his face broke into a smile that made her forget everything: the wedding, her parents' anger, the whispers of scandal. "Amara," he said, putting down his brush and coming towards her, his arms open. She rushed into his embrace, holding him tightly, burying her face in his shoulder. This was where she belonged. This was where she felt truly seen. "I can't do it, Tund," she whispered, her voice muffled against his shirt. "I just can't." He pulled back slightly, holding her by the shoulders, his eyes searching hers. "The wedding? It's really that close?" She nodded, tears pricking her eyes. 1 week to the traditional ceremony. Then the church wedding in a month. They've already sent out the invitations. It's too late. "It's never too late," Tund said, his voice firm. "Not for your happiness." He led her to a worn armchair, clearing away some sketches. "We talked about this, Amara, about what we would do." "I know," she said, pulling a tissue from her small, elegant handbag and dabbing her eyes. "But it feels so much bigger now. My father, he's so proud of this alliance. He's invested so much. And what about your investment, Amara? Tund asked gently. Your life, your future, your heart? He knelt before her, taking both her hands in his. We said we'd run away. We said we'd start fresh, just us. Are you ready? She looked around the studio, at the vibrant paintings, at the humble but honest space Tund had created for himself. It was a world away from the gilded cage of her home, but it felt real, authentic, felt like life. Where would we go? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. How would we live? The practicalities, for the first time, truly hit her. She had never had to worry about money, about shelter, about food. Her life had been one of endless provision. Tund squeezed her hands. We don't need much. I have my art. I have my hands. We could go somewhere quiet. A small town, perhaps, far from Lagos. Maybe Abeokuta or even a bit further towards Benin Republic just to be completely out of reach while we get on our feet. We'll start small, Amara. From the very beginning. But we'll be together. And we'll be free. His words painted a picture of a simple life. A challenging one. But one filled with genuine love and purpose. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. The thought of leaving everything behind, the scandal, the anger, the whispers, it was overwhelming. But the thought of staying, of marrying David and living a life of quiet despair, was even more unbearable. My father will come after us, Amara said, the fear still lingering in her voice. He'll send people. He won't let this go. Tund's jaw tightened. Then we make sure we disappear completely. We plan everything perfectly. We leave no trace. He paused, his gaze intense. This is your last chance, Amara. The day of the traditional engagement is just 1 week away. After that, it gets harder. Are you with me? Amara looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw not just a man she loved, but a partner, a protector, someone who saw her true worth beyond her family name. The decision was hers and hers alone. She could choose the path of duty, security, and a gilded prison, or she could choose the path of love, uncertainty, and true freedom. A deep breath filled her lungs, a breath she felt she hadn't truly taken in months. Yes, she said, her voice gaining strength. Yes, Tund. I'm with you. Tell me what we need to do. As Tund began to outline his hurried, desperate plan, a sense of calm settled over Amara. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with a thrilling sense of purpose. The golden cage might be closing, but she was about to make a desperate, defiant flight. The secret garden of their love was about to bloom into an open sky. Consequences be damned. The week that followed Amara's secret meeting with Tund was a whirlwind of hushed planning and heart-stopping risks. Every phone call, every text, felt like a dangerous gamble. Amara learned to send messages in code, using phrases that sounded innocent to anyone else but carried urgent instructions for Tund. She became an expert at faking enthusiasm for wedding details while secretly orchestrating her escape. Their plan was simple yet terrifyingly bold. The traditional engagement ceremony, usually a smaller, more intimate affair before the grand church wedding, was the perfect cover. It would gather many guests at the Bello estate, creating enough distraction for Amara to slip away unnoticed. You need a good reason to leave the main house for a bit, Tund had whispered on a late-night call. Something that won't make anyone suspicious. Amara thought hard. The estate was vast, with many secluded corners. The old garden shed, she decided. It's far from the main hall. I can say I left my special hairpiece there, or some small emergency item for the ceremony. Tun's voice was tense. Good. I'll be waiting in the alleyway behind the shed. My brother Emeka will have a car ready. It will be an old, unmarked vehicle, nothing fancy that would draw attention. Getting out of the estate would be the hardest part. The Bello family had tight security, especially with the wedding approaching. Guards patrolled the perimeter, and gates were monitored. I'll wear something simple under my ceremonial dress, Amara planned. Something easy to move in. She thought of the small emergency fund she had, money gifted to her over the years, saved in a hidden compartment in her jewelry box. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. The days crawled by, each one bringing the traditional engagement ceremony closer. Amara felt like an actress performing the most important role of her life. She smiled. She laughed. She accepted gifts, all while a cold knot of fear and determination twisted in her stomach. Finally, the day arrived. The Bello estate was transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. Guests, dressed in vibrant traditional attire, filled the sprawling gardens. The air hummed with music, laughter, and the rich scent of Nigerian delicacies. Chief Femi Bello, resplendent in his flowing agbada, moved among his guests, his chest puffed with pride. Mrs. Bello, elegant and beaming, supervised every detail. Amara, adorned in a magnificent turquoise lace dress with intricate gold embroidery, felt like a doll on display. Her traditional engagement beads, heavy and beautiful, rested on her neck. David Davies, handsome and poised, stood beside her, his hand occasionally resting on her arm. He seemed genuinely happy, a fact that pierced Amara with a pang of guilt. He was a good man, but he wasn't her love. The ceremony began. Elders offered blessings, drummers played intricate rhythms, and the air buzzed with ancient customs. Amara performed her part, kneeling before her parents for their blessing, offering a drink to David as a sign of acceptance. Every movement felt rehearsed, every smile fake. Her eyes darted towards the gate, towards the hidden paths, calculating the moments. Midway through the ceremony, after the initial blessings and gift exchanges, Mrs. Bello noticed a loose bead on Amara's elaborate hairpiece. "Darling," she whispered, "that bead is almost falling off. Go quickly to the small garden shed at the back. I think I left the tiny repair kit there yesterday when I was inspecting the landscaping. Hurry before the next part of the ceremony begins." Amara's heart leaped. This was it, the perfect excuse. "Yes, mother," she said, her voice sounding surprisingly calm. "I'll be right back." As she walked away from the main celebration, the music and laughter slowly fading behind her, a strange mix of terror and exhilarating freedom surged through her veins. She moved quickly, her long dress rustling, past rows of exotic flowers and whispering fountains. Security guards were preoccupied, greeting guests, laughing at jokes. No one paid her much attention. She reached the old garden shed, a forgotten corner of the estate. It was dusty and smelled of earth and old tools. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with the latch. Inside, she quickly stripped off the heavy outer layer of her traditional dress, revealing the simple, dark jumpsuit she wore underneath. She pulled off her elaborate hairpiece and flung it onto a pile of gardening tools. She grabbed the small, hidden pouch of money from her pocket, her lifeline. With a final, desperate look at the grand house, where her parents' lives were so deeply entwined with hers, she slipped out the back door of the shed. The narrow alleyway behind it was overgrown with shrubs, hidden from view. And there he was, Tund. He stood beside an old, faded gray car, looking both anxious and determined. His brother, Emeka, was already in the driver's seat, his face grim. Amara! Tun's voice was a low, urgent whisper. He reached for her, pulling her into a quick, fierce hug. Are you ready? Ready? She breathed, her voice barely a whisper. The reality of it slammed into her. This was it. No turning back. She scrambled into the back seat of the car, Tund quickly following her. Emeka started the engine, a rough, sputtering sound that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet alley. The car pulled away, slowly at first, then gaining speed as it turned onto a smaller road, away from the grand entrance of the Bello estate. Amara risked one last look back. Through the dusty rear window, she could just make out the top of the main house, lights twinkling, music still playing. The party was still going strong. Her absence hadn't been noticed yet, but it wouldn't be long. The thread was unraveling. The perfectly woven tapestry of Amara Bello's life was tearing apart, stitch by delicate stitch. She knew with a chilling certainty that her father's fury, when he discovered her absence, would be legendary. It would be a firestorm, and she and Tund were heading straight into it, with nothing but hope and a stolen moment of freedom. The initial rush of adrenaline, the thrilling escape from the Bello estate, slowly gave way to a chilling realization. Amara and Tund were truly on their own. The old, faded car bumped along the narrow, less traveled roads, leaving the glittering lights of Lagos behind. Tund's brother, Emeka, drove with a quiet intensity, his eyes constantly scanning the rearview mirror. We need to get out of the city as fast as possible, Emeka muttered, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Chief Bello won't waste a second once he realizes you're gone. And he was right. Back at the Bello estate, the music still played, but a subtle shift in the atmosphere had begun. Mrs. Bello, now slightly flustered, searched for Amara. Has anyone seen Amara? She just went to the garden shed for a moment. Minutes turned into 10, then 20. The bead on the hairpiece was a trivial matter. Amara's continued absence was not. A low hum of concern rippled through the immediate family. Chief Bello, usually calm and composed, felt a prickle of unease. He sent a servant to check the shed. When the servant returned, breathless and pale, with Amara's discarded, expensive hairpiece in hand, the blood drained from Chief Bello's face. "What is the meaning of this?" he roared, his voice cutting through the festive sounds. The music faltered, then stopped. All eyes turned to him. "Where is my daughter?" Panic erupted. Guards were immediately dispatched. The gates were sealed. David Davies, his face etched with confusion, approached Mrs. Bello. "What's happening? Where's Amara?" Chief Bello wasted no time. He was a man of action, and betrayal fueled his fury. He knew Amara wouldn't just wander off. This was an elopement, and he knew exactly who would be involved. "Find Tund Adebayo," he commanded, his voice shaking the very foundations of the estate. "Search everywhere. Call his family. Call everyone. She cannot have gone far." His anger was a tangible force, casting a dark shadow over the once joyous celebration. The guests, sensing the immense shift in mood, began to whisper, then slowly, awkwardly started to leave. The traditional engagement ceremony, meant to solidify a powerful alliance, had shattered into 1,000 pieces. Meanwhile, Amara and Tund were heading north, away from the coast, towards the quieter states. They talked in hushed tones, planning their next moves. "My contacts," Tund explained, his voice softer now that they were truly alone. I have a friend in Oyo State, near Ibadan. He runs a small guest house. Simple but safe. We can hide there for a few days, gather ourselves. Amara nodded, clutching Tun's hand. The reality of their situation was setting in. No more maids, no more drivers, no more endless luxuries. Just the clothes on their backs and the small amount of cash she carried. They arrived at the guest house in the dead of night. It was a modest place, clean but sparse, a world away from the lavish hotels Amara was used to. The air smelled of dust and wood smoke. Tun's friend, a man named Cotonou, greeted them warmly but with a knowing look. He clearly understood the gravity of their situation. "Welcome," Cotonou said, his eyes lingering on Amara's still expensive jumpsuit. "You are safe here for now. No one will think to look in this quiet corner." For the next few days, Amara and Tund lived a life stripped bare. They ate simple meals, mostly local dishes cooked by Conou's wife. Amara learned to wash her own clothes by hand, to sweep the small room, to live without the countless conveniences she had always taken for granted. It was a humbling experience, but surprisingly, she found a strange sense of peace in it. There was a raw honesty to this life, a feeling of building something real, together. Tund, too, was different here. Without the pressure of their secret meetings, he was more relaxed, more himself. He would sketch in a small notebook, capturing the everyday scenes around them, the market women, the children playing, the quiet rhythm of the town. He talked about his dreams, not just for his art, but for a life with her, a life built on their own terms. "We can sell my paintings," Tund said one evening, holding her hand as they sat on the small porch, looking at the stars. "We can set up a small stall in a different town, a place where no one knows us. We'll save up, get a small place." Amara listened, a warmth spreading through her chest. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, she felt truly hopeful about her future. A future she was actively shaping. But the peace couldn't last. News travels fast, even to quiet towns. Chief Bello had put out an alert, not just with the police but with his extensive network of contacts, his business associates, his political allies. He offered a significant reward for any information leading to his daughter. His pride was wounded, his reputation stained. He would not rest until Amara was returned and Tund punished. One morning, Cotonou rushed into their room, his face grave. "Chief Bello's men. They're asking questions in the next town over. They described Amara. They know she's with a young artist." His voice dropped to a whisper. "You need to move. Now." Fear, cold and sharp, gripped Amara. Her father's reach was wider than she had imagined. There was no escaping his shadow in Nigeria. They needed to disappear completely. "Where do we go?" Amara asked, her voice trembling. Tund's eyes met hers, determined. "We go further, across the border, to Benin Republic. We'll be truly safe there." The decision was made. Their brief taste of quiet freedom was over. The price of their choice was a life on the run, constantly looking over their shoulders. But as Amara packed her meager belongings, clutching Tund's hand, she knew one thing for certain. No matter the cost, this freedom, this love, was worth fighting for. The unraveling thread of her old life was complete. Now they had to weave a new one, far from the reach of the powerful Bello name. The journey to Benin Republic was grueling. Amara and Tund traveled mostly at night, using bush taxis and motorcycles, avoiding major checkpoints. The little money Amara had brought quickly dwindled. They ate simple, often stale, food bought from roadside stalls. The luxury of air conditioning and soft beds was a distant memory. Amara, who had never known hardship, found strength she didn't know she possessed. She learned to sleep curled up in uncomfortable positions, to ignore the dust and the heat, and to find comfort in Tun's quiet presence beside her. Crossing the border was the riskiest part. Tun's network of artist friends and acquaintances proved invaluable. A contact, a wizened old man with kind eyes and a knowing smile, guided them through a less patrolled route, a winding path through thick bush near Semekrake. They paid him almost all their remaining cash, their hands clasped tightly as they slipped across the invisible line into a new country, a new beginning. They settled in Cotonou, the bustling economic capital of Benin. It was a city of vibrant markets, busy streets, and a unique blend of cultures. Here, they were just two more faces in the crowd, free from the shadow of Chief Bello's wrath. Life was hard, truly hard. They rented a tiny, one-room apartment with a shared bathroom in a crowded neighborhood. Amara, who had never cooked a meal in her life, learned to bargain for ingredients in the local market and prepare simple dishes over a small gas burner. Tun spent his days painting, his artistic fire burning brighter than ever, fueled by their shared struggle and newfound freedom. He set up a small stall in a local art market. At first, sales were slow. People admired his vibrant canvases, but few could afford them. Amara, using the social skills honed in her old life but now applied with genuine humility, learned to talk to customers, to tell the stories behind Tun's paintings, connecting buyers to his unique vision. She became his manager, his muse, his partner in every sense of the word. Meanwhile, back in Lagos, the scandal of Amara's elopement was the talk of the town. Chief Bello's fury had been legendary. He had used every resource at his disposal, private investigators, police connections, even underworld contacts, to find her. But Amara and Tund had vanished without a trace. The Davies family, publicly humiliated, had eventually called off all talks of future alliances with the Bellos. Chief Bello's reputation, once unblemished, was now stained with the whispers of disgraced daughter and failed alliance. His company shares took a hit, and trust in his judgment wavered among some of his peers. 5 years passed. In Cotonou, Tund and Amara's lives had blossomed, slowly but surely. Tund's art, infused with the vibrant energy of his new home and the deep love he shared with Amara, began to gain recognition. A French art collector, on holiday in Benin, stumbled upon Tund's stall and was mesmerized by his work. She bought several pieces and, more importantly, introduced him to a gallery owner in Paris. This was the turning point. Tund's paintings, once displayed on a humble market stall, were soon gracing the walls of a prestigious gallery. His unique perspective, his raw talent, and his captivating use of color resonated with critics and buyers. Orders poured in from Europe and America. Amara, with her innate business acumen, handled everything. She set up Tund's online presence, managed his finances, negotiated contracts, and organized his international exhibitions. She proved to be a formidable businesswoman, transforming Tund's raw talent into a thriving enterprise. They moved into a spacious apartment overlooking the ocean, then a small, elegant house. They hired assistants, set up a proper studio, and invested wisely. Their company, Adebayo Art and Ventures, grew rapidly. Tund's paintings became highly sought after, his name whispered among collectors. Amara's shrewd management ensured every deal was profitable, every venture successful. They diversified, investing in local artisans, creating a platform for other talented but struggling artists in Benin. Within 5 years, Amara and Tund, starting from scratch, had built an empire far more dynamic and arguably more influential than Chief Bello's traditional businesses. Their wealth wasn't just in numbers. It was in the global reach of Tund's art and Amara's vision. They lived a life of purpose and profound happiness, surrounded by beauty they had created themselves. Their love, once scorned, was the foundation of their extraordinary success. One sunny afternoon, a small delegation arrived at their impressive Cotonou offices. A sleek black car pulled up, and 2 impeccably dressed men stepped out. Amara, now confident and poised, greeted them. They introduced themselves as representatives of Bello Holdings, her father's company. Madame Amara, one of them began, his voice surprisingly deferential. Chief Bello sends his regards. He has followed your success with great interest. There's a new opportunity in the West African art market, a large investment. He would like to propose a partnership. He believes your expertise and Mr. Adebayo's talent would be invaluable. Amara looked at them, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. 5 years ago, she had been a disobedient daughter, an embarrassment. Now her father, the formidable Chief Femi Bello, was seeking her partnership. The scorned love had indeed soared to fortunes far beyond what anyone could have imagined. She had found not just freedom, but true power, built on love and self-reliance, proving that a golden cage, no matter how shiny, could never contain a spirit determined to fly.